Obi Trice and Mike Solo here, spitting another video your way.
Welcome to Rebel Watch, an all-Star Wars podcast.
Hey, what are you trying to push on us?
Perhaps you think you're being treated unfairly.
You must learn the ways of the Force.
But I was going into Tashi Station to pick up some power converters.
Relax, stay on target, and enjoy the show. Hey, Star Wars fans, welcome back to another episode of Rebel Watch. I'm Ez, and this is Mike. How you doing, Mike?
Superman.
Good.
No,
That's
not
good.
Superman. I'm Superman.
All right, cool. Are you ready for this video?
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good, because I'm not either.
That's okay.
This
We're
is-
going to get through this together.
We're gonna get through this together. This is gonna be an interesting experience. Also, hey, we're in a new set here, in a sense. La-da-da.
A little lighter.
Yeah, I have not seen the shot. I'm totally trusting Mike on the shot. I hope I'm in it.
This is site number 2.
Yeah, so we're calling this Yavin 4,
Yes.
and my place is gonna be called Echo Base.
Yes.
So, all right. So today, our podcast, is basically. We're kind of speculating and theorizing on what is coming out of the unknown region.
I wanted to make a joke there, but I didn't.
Yeah, good thing you didn't. This is
a
PG-13
children's
podcast.
Yep.
God, you're so mature.
I'm sorry.
I'm kidding. So this is about. Let me rephrase that. Then.
Yes.
Actually,
no, you can go ahead with the phrasing.
okay. So coming out of the unknown region, we have what we don't know. We don't know what's there. We're not sure if Snoke came from there. But before we get there, to help us sort of theorize and figure out what may be coming in Disney's mind, we thought we would talk about basically everything that's out there and sort of this humanizing of the Empire.
Yes.
Of Imperials.
That's exactly what's going on.
You're like, well, how do those two connect? What does humanizing the Empire have to do with what's coming in the unknown region? We'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay? We're going to connect those two. So let's talk about this, Mike. Humanizing the Empire, making it more relatable, making it more basically putting a face, taking the mask off of your stormtroopers, taking the mask off of your special forces.
Sometimes literally.
Yeah, literally taking the mask off and seeing who's behind it and getting this real personal experience. It seems like some of our new canon novels, that's what they've done.
Oh, it seems like all of them.
Right? Okay.
Almost all of them.
So which one do we want to start with? Actually, I had an order here, but let's start with the Lost Stars.
Okay.
And just sort of what that's a book that you had read that I haven't read a whole lot. I just had looked at the notes on it.
Yeah. No, it's
How does that sort of take the mask off of Imperials?
It takes a love story and just throws the situation of the Empire versus the Rebellion, and just has this love story in the middle of it, splitting these two lovers up and showing things from both perspectives, a lot from the Empire's perspective. And that's
is
what
it this Sienna?
Sienna, I wrote Thane Kyrell and Sienna. What was her name? Rey.
Ree?
Yeah, gosh, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Those two, they ended up they both enjoyed flying and flight, and they kind of, when they were younger, kind of grew up together and eventually kind of fell in love, and then ended up going their separate ways. But what really we saw was a very relatable story within the Empire.
Right.
Just kind of day-to-day interactions. I don't know, just hearing, Imperial pilots talking amongst each other, things that you never saw in the original trilogy.
Right.
It was just mind-blowing. Are we still in the Empire? We're here in the Death Star, and they're sitting here talking about their barracks and going to the mess hall and stuff. It was just putting relatable material in this Empire. And I mean, that's what we're talking about now. But for me, that was one of the first books where it really made sense as to what they're doing here.
Well, and if you go back and look at Legends and how that was all sort of decanonized and we're coming out with new canon material, you look at all the books and the book titles and the point of views. The point of views are often from the New Republic or the New Jedi Order or things like that. They're not necessarily from the Imperial side of things, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's-
yeah.
So I think so Lost Stars is the beginning of that in a sense, right?
That being one of the first kind of new canon books I read, that's how I saw it.
Right.
And there's a lot more to come that we're going to speak about as well.
Yeah. So next we'll jump into Bloodlines, and I actually think. Actually, before we do that, one thing I wanted to mention: Mark Hamill often mentions that his character Luke Skywalker is super relatable, you know, and that he's somehow he's lovable. You can find a way to really latch on to him, especially in 4, and then he becomes more seasoned and more mature as we go along. But I think people really connected with him, or Obi-Wan. Actually, depending on where you are in life, there's characters that you can really relate to and attach with. Now in Bloodlines. We have some interesting politics. They start to kind of explain the galactic politics, which is really interesting. So you have Castarfo, who is he's a centrist, and then you have Leia. She's a populist. So you've got two different sides, factions in the Galactic Senate, working against each other. And just to sort of help sum this up here, your centrists are basically for a strong central government, a galactic government. Whereas Leia, being a populist, is more for each world having sort of its own independence, more of a looser sort of central government, and stronger, planetary governments. Which really, if you think about, like our own sort of setup, it's sort of like, do we want more federal power or more power delegated to the states and what have you? So there's that whole debate and that whole difference in philosophy. So that's interesting, and actually, we mentioned this in our last video, and it kind of got me thinking about Castarfo and how he revered, even though his parents were enslaved and killed essentially by the Empire. He saw philosophies and things, in fact, parts of the Empire that he really liked.
He respected that authority.
Yeah, he did. He didn't think it was placed in the right hands. So Palpatine, he definitely agreed, was evil and what have you, but he believed in this central strong power. He saw order. He saw the markets regulated. He saw, all these different things, trade routes organized. There was more structure and order to the galaxy. And so he had a real difference in philosophy with Princess Leia or Senator Leia. And, her biggest fear, she was very open-minded and would listen to his thoughts, but just couldn't believe that this younger generation or some of these younger senators and some of these people who were even around during the Galactic Empire would even think about, adopting some of those philosophies or beliefs and what have you. So that was interesting. It sort of puts
Kind of a negative spotlight maybe on
the
Republic.
Almost, yeah, on the Republic, but also almost like a softer, positive spotlight on the Empire. Just that it was run by a Sith Lord, which a lot of people, they didn't know that, but Palpatine was evil.
Just kind of casts a shadow of a doubt on the Republic and its ideas, because in all the other movies, the prequels, the original trilogy, it was the Republic, and no one questioned it, and they were the good guys, and that was what needed to overcome evil. And now you're starting to see it also maybe be a little humanized, not making it more relatable, but maybe a little more realistic, in that there's some nitty-gritty politics in there, and it's not all bells and whistles.
Right. Well, Chancellor Valorum in Episode 1, that was the big thing for the vote of no confidence, and that, he was bogged down in the bureaucracy and in politics and, alliances that had been created in the Galactic Senate. And so he wasn't able to do what he was supposed to do. And that plays into Castarfo's whole idea that, sometimes you need other, it still checks on maybe that person of power, but yet somebody who can really just tell the galaxy, somebody's going to make a call.
Yeah.
Otherwise, nothing gets done in the courts, nothing gets done in the Senate, and there is no,
Sounds like Anakin.
Yeah, a little bit. But again, it's humanizing the Empire.
Exactly.
In a sense.
Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed.
All right, so what do we got next here? We've got, Battlefront 2.
Oh, yeah.
Just the story. Right? All we've
one.
seen is just the trailer, and that's coming out, right? And what do we see in that trailer?
A lot of Imperial storyline. lot of it.
A lot of it.
We have what appears to be maybe some there were special commando kind of
special forces,
stormtroopers,
right?
Yeah, going in and just like mowing down rebels, and then they witness the destruction of their Death Star.
Yes,
and they
and their emperor.
and their emperor, and
as far as they knew,
literally see them take their helmet off.
Yep,
and just kind of like we did, we saw Finn as a stormtrooper take his helmet off for the first time. That hadn't really happened, other than Luke and Han taking theirs off, but they weren't legit
Right.
stormtroopers.
Right.
And just showing the expression on their face, like what is happening, like so that was a huge thing, and that immediately is what caught our attention as to they're kind of humanizing this empire and showing people that they really, just like in Lost Stars, they really cared about it and they were really there fighting for it. You have to say on their own accord. It doesn't seem like they're being held against their will there. Maybe they were brainwashed or whatever, but so yeah, that's what immediately.
You kind of jumped ahead to Finn, but I mean, like look at that. How many more Finns are there in the First Order?
Exactly.
That maybe
Great call. We didn't even think about
Right.
that. Like Finn, kind of showing that there's this kind of humanized.
Right, and we're fighting these. Why are they? I don't know. So that's a great point. Is that who's left out there that sort of maybe wants to defect or doesn't think that the First Order is, maybe it started off as something good, but it's just become more and more corrupted by Snoke or what have you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all right, Dr. Aphra. I don't know much about Dr. Aphra, but what'd you learn about Dr. Aphra?
The newer, she's has her own new comic line now, and she was kind of it's not like a second-hand man, but like a let's call her a resource for Darth Vader. But she's not really a good person either, and now we have this whole comic coming out about her. She's really not a villain. She's not a hero. She's just kind of this person doing not such great things. Kind of like
real ambiguous.
Yeah, she's kind of got a little Han Solo in her, a little Indiana Jones in her. It's we'll see where the comic goes, but that's kind of just another example of where kind of not popularizing. We're putting this kind of anti-hero, up on. I don't know what the word I'm looking for.
Pedestal
is,
or like
pedestal,
I don't know, you're putting a positive spin or light on it, or you're just you're trying to, I guess, pull out some of the it's characterization. So they're trying to show you. And I keep using the word ambiguous, but that not everything is clear cut, light side, dark side sort of thing. That's why you have your scoundrels. You've got your smugglers. Your smugglers. Your
there did it
again.
again.
Smugglers.
There it is.
Smugglers. Bounty hunters. Gosh, because you look at bounty hunters. I mean, that's sort of the parallel here that we read something that kind of made a parallel there. They're not always. Sometimes they work for the Emperor. They work for. They can work for the rebellion.
Yep.
So yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So let's see. Next we've got Rogue One, and this is interesting to me. So you have Galen Erso, right, who was supposed to be assassinated, and he is literally the reason that we're able to have Episode 4 and destroy the Death Star. He puts, he lays that trap in a sense for the rebellion to find, and yet, but he has to let this false, what do you call it, perception of him, go. I mean, he has to live a lie in a sense to protect his family and to protect the galaxy at large. So it's like, and this is somebody who worked on the Death Star.
Yeah.
So how many more Galen Ersos are there?
Exactly.
Exactly. I think this is just a reoccurring theme that we see Disney over and over in their stories doing, and I'm just it's finally, especially when Thrawn came out for me, we're getting there. I'm kind of blown away by this.
Yes.
You know what I mean? These people who we think are, they're on the dark side. They're on the wrong side of things. Maybe not.
It's not so clear.
Yeah, not so clear anymore. Which is really interesting. All right. Okay, so that takes us to Thrawn. Takes us to Thrawn.
Not all of Thrawn.
Not all. We're not gonna. We have a review coming of Thrawn. Yes. It is going to be an epic conversation. But for now, we're just gonna tease at it a little bit here. Yes. Okay. Thrawn is a game changer. If you have not read Thrawn, you need to go read it. And we have a discussion coming up next week. Mike's just got a few more chapters to finish.
Struggling.
And, he's gonna get there, and then we're gonna have it because it's just such a, big. I don't think people realize, and I've only seen a few videos out there on a really good in-depth breakdown of Thrawn and what the significance of that book is. I don't think we've yet realized. If you look at the epilogue and some of the meetings with the Emperor, I'm kind of blown away by what happens here.
Yes.
Essentially, just a major spoiler: Thrawn's a good guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Major spoiler. I mean,
in our eyes, he's a good guy. You may not.
think that.
But
So and I guess me thinking that coming out of reading that book was another example of, and we use that word loosely, humanizing or making a stronger appeal to the Imperials is just really interesting. And so in this, Thrawn hints at an evil beyond the known galaxy.
Yes.
Okay. In the unknown region.
Yes, he does.
He really does. And he hints at it several times to the point where's my quote here? I had a quote about it. He's talking about preemptive strikes and why he was exiled and what have you.
Yes.
And it actually turns out that he's talking. Eli Vanto asked him about the preemptive strikes and why was he exiled and what have you. And he said that he struck first against an evil of some kind. And he explains that it was really these pirates that were sort of like attacking worlds that were defenseless and things like that. And he decided to attack before they were able to attack the Chiss Ascendancy. And that's why he was banished or exiled.
Yeah.
We're going to get into was he or wasn't he?
He can talk about it all day.
I could go all day long on Thrawn. But Thrawn is the more, as you're reading this book, he values human life.
Yes.
And that was the biggest. In Rebels, we hear this story about Thrawn at the planet of Baton and how the destruction that happened there and the civilian lives lost and things like that. But you learn in this book, not to spoil too much of it, but you learn a lot about what actually happened at that battle. And you start to realize that Thrawn values life, and Thrawn is actually still protecting his own people in the Chiss Ascendancy.
You really, what Rebels, and the not the prequels, the Legends material on Thrawn really make him to be this master of warfare.
Right.
That is what we all know, and this book is a game changer.
It is an absolute game changer. I mean, because even you get a little bit in Outbound Flight in Legends material about Thrawn and why he does what he does, and you even get some admirable qualities about Thrawn in some of the Legends material. I'm blanking right now on the Thrawn trilogy, and it's really about his people underneath his command, how they really respect him and they value his opinions, and he's kind of revered. But this takes it a step further, and it goes into his deeper motivations and things like that. And so once you get into that, you're sort of like, wow. And you actually, not even just him, Colonel Euloran, I think is how you say it. He's in Rebels, and you get to learn a lot about him and how he feels and how he views the Rebels and how he views people and citizens and different, they're worried about civilian casualties, and that's interesting.
Yeah.
You get this whole side of Governor Price where she's worried about her family, and you're like, whoa, she's trying to get her mom and dad at all costs, really get her mom and dad out of a dire situation. And it just puts that face to the Imperials that we I don't think we had as much of. There are examples, and we didn't go through and try to pick out all the different examples in Legends where they did that. But I'm just overwhelmed by the amount of material we have in new canon that is suggested that's showing us this face.
There may be even more. Lords of the Sith is a book that I recently purchased and still need to read. But I'm thinking, and what I've heard, there might be even a little more to that with talking about Vader and kind of his simple interactions and how he's doing in this new suit and things like that. And it makes me wonder, are we going to get an Emperor Palpatine book where maybe there's a little soft side to the Emperor?
Man, I don't know.
Maybe he's just a good guy.
Well, you look at Darth Tyrannus, you look at Count Dooku, and you look at how he was sort of he gets consumed in this
Former Jedi.
Yeah. And I don't know that he was necessarily completely indoctrinated with the Sith code and things like that. It's a means to an end, and so he's using that as a stepping stone to sort of help maybe create the Emperor or to create the Empire.
Yep.
And so maybe that's what he's trying to. Maybe he sees eye to eye with old Sheev Palpatine on this, and
Sheev.
thinks that he's going to be second in command and that it's a good idea, but doesn't. I don't know. It couldn't see any other way. Or, around getting to that
exactly.
end.
That was
so,
that was the way to the means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's laying the groundwork of putting this more positive spin on the Empire, and now the Emperor himself. I don't know actually about. There are some stories where there's I think there's a Sith. There's a Dark Jedi who falls in love. Actually, there's gosh dang it! I'm blanking. No. He falls in love with. So, I can't remember. Somebody in the comments. I'll put a note down in the comments about who that is. If there's a story, it's really interesting. And actually, another Jedi comes and ends up attacking his beloved or her beloved, and they get spared. And then that Sith Lord spares that Jedi. It's an interesting.
Wasn't the Battle of Endor? Was it?
No, it definitely was not the Battle of Endor.
Okay. You sure?
I'm sure.
Maybe a Sith Ewok.
No, I'm positive.
Okay.
We'll find out in the Battle of Endor, the movie we're about to watch.
That's coming.
All right. So we've laid the groundwork there,
Yes.
and we're moving towards our theory.
Yes.
Our theory. This is where we are really stretching out there. Mike asked a question in our last podcast in the Lightspeed round as to whether I thought perhaps the light side and the dark side Force users would have to come together to defeat a common foe, a greater evil.
Yeah.
And I said yes to that.
It may not be something that they want to do.
Right.
It may be something that they need to do.
Now, people are just right now, in the comments,
Dislike,
I can't believe you guys are talking about this. But I do, when you read Thrawn and you read about the just the seriousness of which Thrawn is asking the Emperor if he knows about this threat out there, and what is he planning on doing with it. And at one point, Thrawn actually is talking to. This is an outbound flight, and he's talking to. So this is Legends material. Whereas there's an invasion. There's an invasion coming, a massive assault force of dark ships. I think here he's hinting at the Yuuzhan Vong. This is back in outbound flight.
Yes.
Will Darth Sidious tell the citizens of the Republic? And then he keeps going on here. He's talking about when we've built in our. Let's see, to announce. Oh, the person he's talking to says that he's not going to announce this threat to the Republic until they have basically cowed the Republic, or they've brought order.
Yes.
Right to the galaxy, and then at that point they'll be ready to sort of take on this greater threat. So, what is that evil? I think in Legends material, it's the Yuuzhan Vong, right?
Well, it is the Yuuzhan Vong.
It is the Yuuzhan Vong in Legends.
Conversation that you just referenced in that Legends material is eerily similar to the initial conversation 30-some pages on into Thrawn is with Thrawn and the Emperor.
That's true.
Very similar.
That's almost it.
It's much more condensed, but very similar.
Yes. And this time it's just to the Emperor himself.
Yes.
And there's no middle person here at all. And
exactly.
So, and Thrawn sort of, actually at the end, if you jump to the end of Thrawn, the new novel, he's talking about the Death Star. Major spoilers, guys, sorry. He's talking about the Death Star, and he wants to know the motivations and the intentions behind it.
Yes.
And really, Thrawn, and I'm just going to spoil some. This is all being our talk later.
Spoilers.
But he's still concerned for his people, the Chiss.
Yes.
And wants to know if that Death Star is going to be used against his people. Thrawn is not going to assume the rank of Grand Admiral.
No.
He's not going to take that.
He's assured by the Emperor that it's
exactly.
okay.
And the Emperor, assures him that that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
So they seem to be possibly working towards creating or prepping for this force. So now the question is it the Yuuzhan Vong or is it Snoke? Okay, which of those two is it? Or is it both? Is Snoke a member?
Of the Yuuzhan Vong?
Yeah, is he? I mean,
now I'd have told you a few months ago that you're crazy.
Right.
No one seemingly wants the Yuuzhan Vong to come back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I do either. But there's so much Legends material. We were looking at all the references.
Like 108 references in books and literature.
Many. Yeah, it's just there's so much material there and so much history there that it may not be necessarily the Yuuzhan Vong themselves, but something very similar.
Like that. Because in the new Jedi Order, I mean, it's all that's what they're facing is this invasion of the Yuuzhan Vong. And I mean, they have force canceling abilities. Like the force doesn't work on the Yuuzhan Vong.
Yes.
Only certain you could use the force to throw objects at them, but you couldn't necessarily sense them either.
Some Sith powers.
Yeah, you had to. I mean, Sith lightning, or I'm sorry, Force lightning
Force lightning.
worked. There was a couple other things that we were looking up that kind
Maybe
of worked.
that's
But
why.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, the description. We were looking at the description of the Yuuzhan Vong and how they were very tall, had lived extended lives, almost 3 times that of the normal life of a human, and you know, they had that
were disfigured.
yeah, and they had that pale sort of milky white skin, almost just like also not no facial hair or hair. They were seemingly scarred or disfigured, right? I mean,
Exactly.
It sounds like we're describing Snoke.
It sure does.
At some point,
It sure does.
So I don't know. So that's what we're looking at. What is coming out, and if Snoke came from that unknown region, then there you go. Is he sort of the beginnings of this Yuuzhan Vong invasion? I've thought about this for a long time, and I really was like, man, I don't really want to throw this out there, but it's sort of like maybe that's what it is. Now, back to The Last Jedi and what Luke Skywalker says that it's time for the Jedi to end.
Yes.
And I read a theory. I'll put a link to in the description to this theory on Reddit about a guy was kind of talking about how maybe Luke Skywalker is to bring balance to the Force. You know, Pablo Hidalgo confirms there are no Sith in The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
So if the Supreme Leader Snoke is not a Sith Lord, what is he? Does he even use the Force at all? We don't really know.
He might not have to if he's immune to the Force.
Right. Yeah, I mean, exactly. So who knows? And then, Ben Solo, Kylo Ren is not he's sort of this in-between character. Really, the last true Jedi Knight or Jedi Master is Luke Skywalker. And so if that ends with him, it's almost this sort of idea that you're bringing balance to the Force by having neither Sith nor Jedi, which I thought was interesting.
It's pretty cool.
I was like, that's kind of, and if that's the case, then you do have more of a, not a gray Jedi, but sort of something else, Bendu or something that, could take on this threat.
Yeah.
So there's this idea, we're kind of theorizing that eventually there's this uniting of the two, Kylo and Rey, or, whoever else.
Reylo?
No, Reylo. No. Maybe.
Uniting forces.
Yeah, uniting forces.
All right.
God, this is a PG. What is wrong with you?
Hey, that was the whole discussion last week, so it's still on my mind.
So, what do you think about that? Do you think that's a?
There's so many parallels. I don't know how, and like we said, there's so much material. There's so many parallels just with the reference of The Last Jedi, with all of these new canon materials referencing a unknown force in the unknown regions. We've heard this all before.
Right.
It's either the Yuuzhan Vong themselves or it's a Yuuzhan Vong-like enemy out there.
Right. Or Snoke is the first remnants of that.
And that's what we talked
We're
about.
We're not saying that at the end of episode 9, there's we're going to have this massive invasion in Last Jedi. The story is going to play out.
Yes.
But almost that when all is said and done, the invasion comes at the end of episode 9.
That's what we talked about just earlier. I think that's how episode 9 is going to end. I think Snoke's going to say, I'm just the beginning.
Right.
Whether he's killed or whatever, I think he's going to say, I'm just the beginning, and there's going to be some foreshadowing or direct just imagery of a new threat.
Right.
Coming.
And I think that's what Luke Skywalker's prepping them for, but for now we're seeing the workings of this, the beginning, the laying of the foundation for what maybe it's 2 new orders, or maybe it's 1 new order or what have you, but I sort of think things are going to become a little more ambiguous and they're going to be a little bit more blurred. So I'm not so sure that we're going to have such clear light and dark, which I'm not saying that I'm happy about, or I'm not saying that's what I want to see. I'm just trying to figure out based upon what Disney and what this new canon material is trying to foreshadow and what it's the bigger themes that we're trying to
and that's the point that we're getting to, is that this new material and humanizing these Imperial forces or whatever it's doing is to get us all prepared for the idea of that maybe the light and the dark actually having to unify, maybe not unify, but come together for a common purpose. And that's to protect the galaxy from something that could just utterly destroy it.
Right, because both sides are just so polarized that there's got to be maybe some middle ground, and what could draw them to the middle is an outside greater threat.
Forest trees.
Yeah, forest trees. Something. Maybe the forest trees show them something. I don't know. By the way, interesting note when you look at the trailer for The Last Jedi, that cave that he's in. Look at the rounded edges. It's the roots of the tree.
It does look
he's,
like it.
He's inside the tree.
Let's pull that up.
Call that tree cave, whatever you want to call it.
Tree cave. I like that.
Tree cave.
Was it a
what
tree
is.
cave on Dagobah?
Yeah, there he goes underneath the tree to get into the cave there. But so I actually believe on Dagobah that was a forest tree too. Just so we're clear. I think it was
I think
corrupted
so
by the
too.
dark side, but still.
Agreed.
So, yeah, guys, we are kind of saying that there may be a post-Episode 9 Yuuzhan Vong invasion. That's kind of what we're saying. And we're also saying that Snoke is just the precursor to that.
Yeah.
And that we're building up towards a more Bendu-like beginnings of the Jedi, almost like back to the very beginning of things when they first were founded and formed. And then, once that threat subsides and what have you, then in times of peace, people start to get other ideas. They get ambitious, and or they're tired of being complacent, and then et cetera. So I think that's what we're gearing up for.
I think so too. Can you see it now? The end of Episode 9, this huge, enemy is amassing, and then we go 5 to 10 years silence on Star Wars films, and we get the Vong Wars.
Well, we also thought it's kind of what happens in Episode 2. You have the Clone Wars starts, and then we fast forward 10 years later, and we get Episode 3. And to fill in, George Lucas gave us the Clone Wars, the animated series. So if they wanted to do something like that, they totally could. They could build up a lot of these different characters, and they could talk us through some of the Yuuzhan Vong, who are they, and what is, and then really just kind of broaden the universe in a sense, and give us more characters and stuff. One more interesting note before I forget to bring it up.
Come on.
We had in our last video someone ask us about what characters in novel that we thought we would see in film, and I've heard people talk about this. I've seen it in our comments, and I've kind of shied away from it. I actually now more and more am believing that Thrawn may actually be referenced, or he may be Benicio del Toro may actually be playing Thrawn in Episode 8, which is crazy. I guess one of the questions for one of the videos we're going to do was, will we see the Chiss Ascendancy in Episode 8 or Episode 9? Or will we hear them referenced or hear distress calls from them, in Episode 9 to lead into this Yuuzhan Vong situation? Because they would sort of be the front line of defense, actually, where
From the unknown region.
From the unknown region, yeah. And so that would be possibly where the threat is coming from. That's how it was in Legends. And so I'm thinking maybe that's what's going to happen. Are we going to see the Chiss race on in actual, film in the cinematic universe? So that would be really neat. And I think there's just so much. They've brought Thrawn back into Rebels, and with this nice new novel, he could. I'm not sure about their life expectancy and how long they live for, but he could. He would live a long life at that point. He would be very old at that point, so maybe they don't age the same, so they could work out, but it's interesting. Interesting thought. All right, so any other thoughts, Mike? Just Snoke, Yuuzhan Vong, that's what's coming.
I mean, if we're way off, then
we may be
that's
way off.
Cool, but there's just so much hinting at this, and once again, it's probably not the Yuuzhan Vong. Probably not.
Yeah.
If it is, that'd be a huge bombshell. There are people talking about a huge bombshell coming in Episode 8. I'd be down.
Well, that's why we were reading some articles just the other day, and everyone keeps talking about we have no clue. We're so in the dark on what the twist is going to be or what this bombshell is going to be. So I'm just thinking in way outside the box, like what could it be? Do we have to unite? Is it like, I'm thinking Luke, we're speculating Luke dies, and then you've got Rey and Kylo, or Rey and Ben have to face Snoke, and then Snoke starts to kind of taunt and foreshadow something coming beyond him that is more powerful and more evil. It's just, who knows? They have us. They literally have us so stumped. And the more they build up this idea that we have no idea what's coming, I'm just like, oh my God, they are going to drop a huge bombshell, and it's going to be something from Legends.
That's right.
They've shown a history of wanting to pull from Legends, things that were popular. And I'm not so sure how popular the Yuuzhan Vong are, but
They're popular as all get out in Legends.
They are. I mean, they're there. I just don't know. I guess I mean that like bringing them back in the canon.
People would enjoy it. Or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how people would feel about that. But
a lot of what I've heard, seeing people's comments, a lot of people don't want it.
Well, what it would do, the one thing that it would do is that it would change Force abilities, the way the Jedi, the tactics, and things like that.
Yep.
It would definitely be a game changer because that's what it was in the novels.
Yes.
And so,
perfect explanation is why the Jedi have to end.
right. I mean, the Yuuzhan Vong were almost to the point so evil that the Force essentially, like cut them off in a sense, and so they couldn't use the Force. There was a block to some degree, and so, but that also worked It worked for their in their advantage as well. So,
yeah,
I have.
Stumped, man.
Stumped.
Every week, I'm just stumped.
Yeah. So we just thought we'd throw out there, give you guys some insights into some of our conversations that, we're vulnerable in this situation here. Because
so uncomfortable.
I mean, this is far-fetched, really. But I don't know. The part of our conversation that I really like is going over bloodlines, lost stars, Thrawn, and how, we're sort of seeing both sides of the coin. We're getting more on both sides, and I think that's a good thing because it makes that loss of life or those battles more intense. It makes the stakes higher, when you start to realize all of that. Also, another note about the Yuuzhan Vong, they, I think, enslaved or killed, one of the notes we saw, and this is on Wikipedia, like something like 365 trillion
beings, yeah.
When they invaded. So it's just one of those things to be massive. It would cause absolutely the Resistance and the First Order to unite.
Yes, especially if the Jedi cannot sense them coming. We understood in old Legends material that the Jedi really couldn't sense their whereabouts or what their thoughts or speculations were, so they would have no idea.
Right. And there would be an adjustment time. It would literally be a Star Wars, a War in the Stars, where it would literally fall back on some,
Maybe Snoke revealed himself to Luke Skywalker, and Luke is aware of the threat now, and so he's seeking an...
When we were reading, we were like, how was Snoke able to deceive Luke? If because we kind of believe that they had met before, and it's sort of this idea: if he was something like a Yuuzhan Vong, then it would make a lot of sense that Luke couldn't sense him or detect his motives or his motive, and he was able to go undetected, and influence, Ben Solo.
Now it definitely kind of, speaking of Ben Solo, it kind of throws off. It just we used to see, and I still think we see Ben as idolizing or being trained in kind of an old Republic kind of manner. I mean, we talked about his lightsaber and those references and things like that. So that might kind of contradict that theory a little bit. Yeah. But I mean,
there's actually a lot of things that we've said and theorized that, like, throwing this outlandish theory out there is kind of going to contradict a lot of what we've thought might happen. But I just keep hearing these warnings that, like, you're off. Like, no one's on to what may be happening in 8 and 9. And I'm like, boy, holy cow. Like,
no idea.
Because I've heard some crazy things about Rey being the chosen one. Ben Solo.
I like that.
Well, I mean, they're all likable and they're all plausible theories. But then they almost get kind of overshadowed and pushed to the side when you bring in something like what we just brought up. Something post 9. We still get through our story arcs, but they seem less significant than a massive invasion into the galaxy. So
true.
I don't know. So that's I think why they have to save the Yuuzhan Vong for it. It would have to be a post episode 9, or it had to be something later on down the line. It's just it's way too much to happen now. Those story arcs will still continue. The redemption of either Ben Solo or the turning of Rey. Yeah, which people have often theorized about.
And Disney's thinking long term here.
Sure, they are.
I mean, if it were to be a battle with Yuuzhan Vong like evil, that could last a very long time.
Right. Well,
very long time.
And the reason I think Thrawn is talking about the Yuuzhan Vong is because there was a clear connection between the Chiss and the Yuuzhan Vong. They were the first people that back in Legends that they connected with. So it makes sense that he might be hinting at that as the threat or the species, and also their religious beliefs. Like the Yuuzhan Vong, they sacrifice. They're very anti-mechanics. And all of their weaponry and armor and ships are organic, material. It's a very different technology than what we're used to, and they're barbaric in a sense, and almost this pure evil they're very uncivilized, and I think Thrawn is really nervous and scared of what that might be. They're not confined by the normal sort of morals or standards that we have in the known galaxy.
Definitely.
So scary.
Very scary. Terrifying.
So, all right, guys, let us know what you think in the comments. Are we absolutely out of our our minds? We already know that, but just go ahead and tell us anyways, because we like to hear it. And let us know, Yuuzhan Vong, Snoke, who is he? What do you think? What do you think about this bloodlines and seeing the unmasking of the Empire or Imperials or the First Order? Let us know what you think about that. And
that's right. If Thrawn's scared, I'm scared.
That's for sure. That's kind of the key. If he's scared,
take that away from this.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and please subscribe for more content. And may the Force be with you.
I really hope Ez has enough room on his phone.
Hey, Star Wars fans, welcome back to another episode of...
That was fast. I'm not ready.
There we go. This time's for real.
Yep.
Okay. Quick little drink.
I can't stop.
Hey, Star Wars fans, welcome back to another episode of Rebel Watch. I'm Ez, and this is Mike. Hold on, dude. I'm just too
too animated? Is that possible?
I just got, as I got to the end, I was like,
you're just over there rocking. What's up, guys?
No, it wasn't that I was too animated. It's like, I realized that I didn't know what I was going to say after I did the intro.
And we have no idea what we're going to say. Hey, Star Wars fans, hope you enjoyed this edition of Rebel Watch. If you did, please be sure to comment, like, and subscribe to this channel. Also, if you'd like to become involved with this podcast, please go ahead and check us out at patreon.com/Rebel Watch. Thanks.